was in World War II. He was like just turned 18. He was a kid from Indiana who hadn't really traveled outside the state prior to that, and he got shipped off to Germany. And that was really hard on him. I thank him for his service, but he always told me the best day of his life was when he got out of the Army.
Right, but so the question at hand isn't whether selective service, the draft, forced military conscription is right or wrong. The question is whether or not being forced to go to war should be something that is gender neutral. So currently, as it stands under law, only men are subject to forced military conscription. It's 2025. Women have had the vote for over 100 years. I think that they should be subject to forced military conscription. You would have to agree, given you're a feminist, that this would be equality between men and women. You're shaking your head. Why is that?
Because we're not as strong as men are, and we birth kids, and we birth.
Are they? Wait. So
you don't give birth. Like, that's something that we were given when we were born. Okay,
I love it.
That's what we do. We birth. So that's a big thing that we do. You were born because of a woman. Like, you wouldn't be here without a woman.
Right.
But we don't. But biologically, we don't share the same traits, and you know this because you've talked about it before in your.
Absolutely.
So why would you send a woman if men are stronger and biologically stronger and not like...
Yeah, you're right.
So that makes sense. And then women have their part with giving birth, and that's a huge thing we do, that men don't have to go through periods, being a woman in general.
Who here, show of hands, who here has kids? So just curious.
I'm a nanny.
That's great.
So I take care of kids all the time.
So she has a child. Perhaps we can exempt her. But none of y'all have any children, and we have multiple. We have, you're 32, you're 31, you don't have kids. Should we exempt them from military conscription?
Again, she's 30 and we're 23.
Okay, you guys are military age. Why? You guys don't have kids, so...
Our country would lose if women ran...
Well, I disagree. Women can absolutely. Now, I don't think women should be involved in frontline combat, but women can be part of the war effort.
For sure.
And my understanding is, in order to have one person in direct combat, it takes 10 other soldiers or people in the military in like support roles to be able to field one combat soldier. So you can be in the kitchen, in the military, you can be doing administration work, you can be doing whatever the support roles. Women are capable of doing those things. I think it should be a
choice for women.
Yeah, why should it have to be a choice for the women?
So if everyone just goes into the military, then we're literally, who's going to have children, and then we're going to go extinct.
Not everybody, but not all men would get drafted in wartime.
Right, but you're saying like women don't have duties. Our duties is to literally raise civilization.
You don't, but it's not a duty.
It is, unless you want crackheads running around motherless.
Well, hold on. So it's not no. It's not a duty in the same way that men have a duty. So, for example, is there, and point me to actually any country in the world where women can be forced by the government to have children? Can women in the United States be forced against their will to have children?
Well, I don't know in what states this lies, where you get raped and you have to keep your kid. But women do have to, in some states they do.
That's not a comparison.
No, it is.
No, because then the entailment would have to be that the government forces women to be raped.
That's how I read it. Because why would I have to keep a kid that I got raped from? That makes no sense.
Hold on, that wouldn't be forcing a rape. It'd be forcing the birth of a kid from rape. But you're getting you're completely off track here. We're not having a conversation about abortion. We're having a conversation about the government forcing women to have children. That would the entailment there wouldn't be, well, you must
abort,
rape.
So you're forced to have that child.
That's kind of an incoherent comparison.
I don't think so.
Are you saying in the way where if there was a war, the duty for men would be for them to get drafted and the duty for women would be that they have to birth a child?
Well, what I'm saying is, you guys are saying women have duties, and I'm saying they don't. So the government can force you to go to war if it wants to. The government can, and you guys are welcome to look up these videos. You can see them in Ukraine. You have military police abducting men in the streets, throwing them in the van, and then they ship them off to get some military training, and then they go fight on the front. There is no sort of corresponding, even in Ukraine, which is an inactive war, there's not some corresponding duty on the women like, okay, there's not like, it's not even like roses and daisies even. Like there's nothing that compels women by duty to have children. There's nothing, even war-torn Ukraine.
I guess with the situation you're offering, yes, I think women are as capable as men going military and being drafted. But personally, I don't think anyone should be drafted.
Well, okay, but governments and nations are not going to relinquish their ability to call on its citizenry in the event of a military conflict. So we can say, there shouldn't be a draft, but like, I'm interested in looking at what currently is. So what currently is the case is that in almost every single nation in the world, there's male-only military conscription, male-only military draft. I think like Israel, has drafts women. Maybe there's like one other country. Otherwise, it's all men. All men. But speaking specifically about the USA, it's only men here. So you can say, well, I don't think that there should be a draft, but I feel like we should end the military draft as this sort of empty platitude, and it's basically just a waste of time and energy that would better be devoted to making it equal.
I mean, wouldn't it, because the current thing in the U.S. right now is women aren't being forced to be in the military, so couldn't you just use that same argument to say, well, it's not a reality right now, so...
Well, sure, it's plausible that you could relinquish men in this country from the obligation to be drafted. However, pretty much at any moment, even if for optics reasons, the United States government could say, you know what, we're just doing away with the draft. But then the government can just, in some like desperate time of war, can just be like, you know what, we're going to pass a law and bring the draft back.
Well, it'd be understandable if they did that to draft everyone, I suppose, but...
Well, legally, though, as it stands, if there was a draft, women would not be subject to it. And historically, women have never been subject to military conscription.
Honestly, I think that we've come to a point where, like, there's trans people and all of that, and I think that maybe everyone should just be like tested, and then if you are capable and strong enough, you can pass like a physical test, and then everyone can get drafted, because there's like muscle mommies, like there's very strong women that would be down to do that. Like there's very masculine women. So like I think it should be open to everyone. Everyone should go through the same test, and if you are not physically capable of protecting this country, then move on to the next.
Okay, the trans stuff. But going back to your thing, we should end the draft. I just think this idea that we should end the draft is this sort of irrelevant red herring, and we should. It's like you're trying to shut down the discourse on gender equality. We should just equalize it, because again, nations and governments, the United States government will not relinquish its right to have a military draft. It's conceivable in some sort of, who knows what kind of scenario in the future could desperately need people to be drafted for the military. I mean, what's the alternative, right? So let's talk about the draft briefly. I don't want to linger too long on the draft, but let me ask you this. What if we knew, this is a hypothetical scenario. Let's say China. We know with a foregone conclusion, we're predicting in, a couple years, in a year, China's going to invade us. No offense. Sin. By the way, if China invaded Canada, would you side with China or Canada?
Wouldn't I get deported?
Well, just privately. You wouldn't have to would you?
China.
Wow. you'd, yikes. Okay. That's
Are
crazy.
you from there?
Bro.
Pardon?
Are you from China?
Wait, do you ever want to become an American citizen?
I've thought about it, maybe.
Because of the better taxes. Question: if you became an American citizen and China like invaded the U.S., would you side with the U.S. or China?
China.
Wait, but are you from China?
No, I'm from Canada.
Is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?
So anyways, wait. Okay, the draft, right? Shit.
No. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, what was I saying about the draft? Oh, China invades. China invades. We have 1 year to prepare. And let's say this is a hypothetical China. If China wins the war against us and they invade us, we know because of our intelligence gathering that their plan is because they view the United States populace as such a threat to the world order that they want to establish that they're going to kill all the men and they're going to rape all the women. Do you think, and here's what else we know. In this hypothetical scenario, we know that comparing our current military's power, hypothetical, right now our military is stronger than China, but in this hypothetical, we know that our military isn't strong enough to beat China unless we draft the men. But some men don't want to go. Do you think, under this circumstance where we know that China's going to kill most of the country, they're going to rape all the women, under that circumstance, is it justified to force men who otherwise wouldn't want to fight to fight?
I think if it got critical enough, eventually a draft may come in, but I don't think they'll do it initially. Additionally,
No, but in the hypothetical, it's granted that we have the intelligence that we know that, okay, they're stronger than us. We need to draft the men because our assessment of our military capabilities in this hypothetical scenario, they're stronger than us. But if we draft these other men, we have a chance. But if we don't, we're just going to get wiped out. Should we draft the men?
possibly. Though, truthfully, at looking at military information and just reading about kind of technology they're developing in the military, I don't know about other countries, but at least the U.S. seems to be really going towards drones rather than sending people on the front lines.
Total red herring. It's a total red herring.
Realistically, as the future goes on, I don't know how much they'll even use
well,
people.
maybe China's like developing some like insane AI that's going to like completely wreck us too. So in the hypothetical scenario, though, it's already granted that China is stronger than us. So should we draft the men to prevent all the women in the country from getting raped?
Wouldn't this hypothetical situation be a red herring?
How is that? How would it be?
Because
it's testing your logic of like your disagreement with a draft wholesale.
Because this is a very odd hypothetical situation that hasn't occurred anytime yet.
That's why it's called a hypothetical.
Well, wouldn't using drones instead of people in the future be a hypothetical?
Hold on. You don't think that, like, let's say this war takes place in the next 5 years. You think drones are going to be the exclusive, fighter in military conflicts?
Well, for a lot of our enemy nations, I'm sure, because they can't get across the ocean as well as a drone. So
in the hypothetical situation, it's going to be granted that the Chinese Navy has the resources to put boots on the ground in the United States.
I mean, with nuclear weapons, you could just nuke a place and take care of most of it.
Yeah, then it's just, okay, now we're having another red herring. Now we're having a conversation about mutually assured destruction.
I also this is kind of what I mean about rage bait. Because,
how is this rage bait?
Because this has nothing to do with dating. That's why I'm curious.
It was your criticism.
Well, it was about feminism, but
right.
Feminism gets just brought up a lot on this, but my point is it doesn't have as much to do about...
No, you brought up the whole, the voting thing.
Yes, that was an example from what you asked me initially.
Right.
But
yeah.
My point is you bring up like women versus men, feminism, patriarchy, but does that have to do with your initial thing about dating? That's what this whole podcast is about, is dating.
Sure. I think absolutely it's all tied in. I think it's all tied in. Feminism is massively tied into dating. It's had massive negative consequences on the dating landscape. I think if you're somebody who's more inclined to more traditional gender roles, then yeah, massive impact on the dating landscape. And it's all part of it. All part of it. Even the military draft, even the inequality that exists there, it's all baked in.
think everyone should just go through the same physical test, and the weak ones, no. The strong ones, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose. Or if you want to do it, like have a test for like people who you know will potentially face actual combat, and then you have all the pencil pushers and the support roles and the admin that maybe you could like, you know, make the majority of those women.
Exactly.
Sure.
Problem solved.
But again,
exactly.
this whole thing though is we're not going to get rid of the draft. So if the status quo is the draft won't be abandoned, won't be gotten rid of, then surely for the sake of equality, like we have to operate under what is the current system, right? So I think equality would then dictate that women should be subject to military conscription. Okay, and so under that basis, what I see is an inequality that exists which privileges and benefits women and is to the disadvantage of men. Men are subject to forced military conscription, and even in the United States, even if it's not wartime, if you fail to register for the selective service as a man, there's a $250,000 fine. It's technically a felony. You're barred from certain federal jobs. You can't get certain federal student loans. I think I'm trying to think if there's one or two other negative ramifications. No federal student loans, no barred from certain federal jobs, federal positions. There might be one or two other things, but I pretty much went over the bulk of it. But women should be subject to military conscription and that would be related to equalizing women's voting rights, which still aren't equal to the benefit of women.
So do you feel like this is also a class issue? Because men can get out of conscription if they have enough money. In fact, some of our people in the highest levels of office got out of Vietnam by doing that.
Well, I mean, that's not really a field that I'm expert in.
Because I think I know feminism gets blamed for a lot of the ills men experience in our society now. I think you mentioned on your podcast on Wednesday a lot of men are homeless and have very high suicide rates, and it's true.
Let's stick to the draft thing here really quick. I suppose it's the case, like, yeah, some people have political connections and they can, but I mean, honestly, my understanding of the draft, you can't get out of it just because you're wealthy. Although it's plausible, sure, I guess it's plausible. Even then, though, it's still only men that would be impacted. So
CCR wrote a whole song about it.
But anyways, I guess to finish this off, Andrew's argumentation here is that women have a certain privilege in society. So he's like, okay, well, he has other positions too. It's not my position. If you want to have a discussion with him on his specific positions, you can. In any case, I don't believe in repealing the 19th, but I would like to see an equalization between men and women when it comes to military conscription.
Well, that's fair, but...
Well, yeah, but...
So, if that question you asked her about China invading, how do you feel about the draft? How do you think it should go? You think it should be women and men if it's going to...
Well, that question, the hypothetical about China...
Yeah, I want to know your opinion on it.
Well, it's not so much should we draft...
Well, that's what you were asking
Well,
her.
hold on. It's not should we draft women and men, it's should we draft men as it currently stands.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yes, I think so.
Cool.
I don't like war, but again, it's a totally empty platitude. There are conceivable situations in which it's necessary, and whether I think it's necessary or not, it's just the reality. No nation is going to give up its power to draft its citizenry. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just like almost moot. Is that the right word? It'd be a moot point. It's just not even worth like, okay, it'd be really nice if humans didn't have to breathe oxygen. Okay, I guess, like maybe there's a different thing that's better, but as it currently stands, the technology isn't there to, so it's like, okay. Or it'd be really nice if humans didn't have to eat food. Okay, maybe like hundreds of years in the future, we'll have some technology or something where, I don't know, we can get fucking sunlight or something. I don't know. But as it currently stands, okay, so cool. We need a system in place to feed humanity.
Well, there's nothing wrong with looking towards a brighter future. And I mean, I feel like that's what you're doing with your podcast. You're trying to make things better for some of the men who feel a bit disenfranchised.
Sure, I
So
guess.
You don't like how it stands now.
Yeah, but so I guess going back to the original thing, though, which was my negative views on feminism, because I asked you what are the negative views on feminism that I have, and you cited to the voting thing. Maybe I shouldn't have bit on that just because that's Andrew's position about the voting. I'm fine with women voting. So what are my negative views on feminism?
But you don't seem to like that women do have the option to do sex work.
Okay. Anything else? Wait, hold on. Isn't that a feminist position?
What?
There's like anti-sex work feminists.
It's nuanced. I'm not anti-sex work myself. There are some, and I can see where they're coming from. But once again, I think another thing, about sometimes this is a bit rage baity, things can get very black and white on here. And
Okay.
truthfully, I think there's a lot of nuances in life that can't be defined this or that.
Sure. What's an example?
For
Something black or white that I say.
trying to remember, I watched one of your episodes and you even said I'm black and white on this, but I can't remember the specific one. But
Well, what? You don't remember?
well, one thing that does come up a lot on here, and I'm not sure why, because once again, this is about dating, is abortion comes up a lot. And I know people are very black and white with that issue, but sometimes there are nuances. And I don't think
What-
it's something that
okay.
you can just have a yes or no, this is completely done, this is always right or wrong. So
Okay. I don't really bring up abortion too much. Usually that's other people who bring it up, although sometimes I'll engage in that conversation. I find the abortion debate to be kind of dull, to be honest. But yeah, okay. So
Or,
my opposition to sex work.
I don't have any other than, I think,
But what's my negative views on feminism?
well, what are your positive views on feminism?
Wait, it's your position. I don't have positive views on feminism.
Well, when you make those clickbait videos, or someone does, and it's usually about feminists being destroyed, I usually don't see anything about the opposite.
Wait, why? But why? If I'm anti-feminist, why would I have positive things to say about feminism? Like, it's plausible that...
I feel like the point you're getting at is that because I can't necessarily think of something off the top of my head, you're not anti-feminist, so that would mean you are a feminist.
Wait, what? Hold on, what? Wait, what? Can you repeat that one more time?
It feels like you're getting at because you're trying to make me think of specific things from specific episodes.
No,
if
it doesn't have to be.
If I can't think of it, and you're saying, well, if you can't think of anything, then I'm not anti-feminist. That would mean you are a feminist, because that's the opposite.
No, I don't know if I misspoke, but I am an anti-feminist. You wrote in your notes that I have negative views on feminism. So I'm just asking, what are those negative views? I'm not challenging. Like, I think you're right. I do have negative views on feminism. I'm not disputing your claim. I'm asking for what those claims are.
It's just how you tend to present feminists on this show. You just always seem to kind of make them look like they're crazy. But also, it doesn't...
Wait, hold on. I don't make anybody anything. So, for example, people say, Brian, you make people look stupid on the show. I don't make anybody do anything. If they choose to open their mouth and say something that's stupid, there's a microphone there. The onus is entirely on them. So this criticism that I make people look stupid, whether it's related to feminism, whether it's related to dating, I don't know how I make them look stupid. If somebody says something stupid, they've made themselves look stupid.
I think part of it, especially with the short format videos, is you're taking a clip out of a
Sure.
7 or 8 hour video. And sometimes some of those clips don't make a lot of sense out of context unless you sit and watch the whole
Well,
thing.
so
and sometimes it can
obviously-
make people look bad, but if you watch the whole
they
thing, it
make
makes
them
more
s-
sense.
Well, so one thing I'd point out is we don't do this thing where we don't splice. So when I say splice, like for example, say yes right now.
Yes.
Okay. Are you a have you ever punched a baby in the face?
No.
Okay, so splicing would be, I would use that yes that you gave me before and interlace it with me asking you if you punch babies, and to make it seem like you said yes, you punch babies. We don't do that. I will say the shorts are short. You know, they're anywhere from 30 seconds to 90 seconds. But we don't, usually it includes the bulk of what's being said. So sure, in a little short tidbit, perhaps it excludes some of the prior conversation, but we're pretty good faith, even though the clips are captivating and they're getting fiery moments, we're typically not excluding critical context that would mislead the person, mislead the viewer about what the person's actually trying to say. So while the clips are short, I don't think it's leaving out critical context or misleading the person about what they really mean.
Can I add something?
Sure.
So I agree with you. I think that's what you do. But I also think you're never going to use clips where someone is eating you up. And because I've watched your whole hour and a half, and people do eat you up, and you never, ever have those clips
People eat
on.
me up.
Clips, right?
On
So,
occasion,
yeah, I've seen it. So, but I've never seen it in clips. All I
It's
see in
the
clips
rare
is
moment.
you like targeting women. So for
Targeting
sure,
women.
what she's saying has a little bit of truth, because you definitely want to portray a certain like
Sure.
picture
Okay.
for women and for and your views. I mean, this is your podcast.
Well, that would
so-
just be that wouldn't be bolstering her claim, though. That even if we do that,
You do.
even if we do that, that would be editorial discretion as to what clips we use. Oftentimes, though, while look, I've lost arguments on the show.
That's why. But I would never see it in small clips.
Okay, I actually don't see anything wrong with that. Because one, the full live stream is available.
It is.
Other people make clips. So I don't actually see any, like for example, when you take a photo that you're thinking about posting on Instagram, you take like what, 50? You'll blast it, right? You'll take 50? How many do you post? Why don't you post all the shitty?
I post
why don't
50.
hold on? Why don't you
Actually,
post?
I'm so known to post.
Oh, okay.
You go to my
You'll post
Instagram.
the ones
I'll
with the
eat
bad
up the camera
lighting?
every angle, baby.
Oh, what about the one where your eyes are?
I post those because I look sexy and my eyes are twitching. Every moment.
How about if your eyes are closed? You'll post.
I literally have pictures on my
So
Instagram, my eyes closed.
everybody exercises editorial discretion.
I
If you
agree.
closed your eyes on a photo, you're not going to post that one. In
well,
this
I
case,
do, but maybe other girls don't.
yeah, of course, I'm going to post the clips. I mean, by the way, 99% of all potential clips that could be reaped from any show, like overwhelmingly, like maybe a girl will get one on me, but I'm 99% of the time they're getting wrecked. Okay, they're getting fucking wrecked. Okay, good talk. But I don't see how that has anything to do with anything.
Sassy.
Negative views. What are my negative views on feminism?
Need a moment to think.
Can
about
you
it,
share
so-
yours? I haven't
Yeah.
watched your podcast enough to know
Yeah, I
too
haven't
much
watched
about
it
you. I
enough.
just
I
heard
feel
of
like,
it.
it's...
So I really want to. Please enlighten me. Why are you anti-feminist?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'll give you, I will give you two definitions of feminism. My charitable definition. Feminism is a women's advocacy movement. Nothing wrong with women's advocacy. This is my most charitable, generous definition. But it will never be an equality movement. Feminism is not about equality, despite representations to the contrary. Feminism doesn't care about equality, and I'll explain why. It cares about equality if said equality can benefit women. But if a form of equality could conceivably come to the detriment of women, feminists not only won't pursue it, but will actively fight against pursuing said equality, again, if that equality were to benefit or were to come to the detriment of women in some conceivable way. So by this very nature, if you don't believe in just equality across the board, you can't actually truly